there were no early self-inflicted wounds like we saw against Duke, like we saw against Charleston Southern. Clemson did not turn the ball over all night long. They won the turnover margin. I think they had lost the turnover margin in 7 of their last 9 games coming in, or something like that. I can't remember what it was specifically. So that's good to see because turnovers have been plaguing this team, killing this team. So it's good to see them protecting the ball better, although there could have been a couple. I mean, Cade Klubnik's a guy that's going to take chances. There was one that could have easily been picked off in return for a touchdown, and the guy just couldn't reel it in. And there's probably another one late that probably should have been intercepted. But I like the way he responded. He comes right back on third down and makes a throw to Tyler Brown that not a ton of quarterbacks can make over to the opposite hash. I mean, it was a beautifully thrown ball. Like what I saw out of him this week. I thought in the first half against Charleston Southern, he was locking on to guys, not scanning the field, and really didn't settle in after halftime. This week, I thought he came out ready to roll, settled in. He was scanning the field, hit a bunch of different receivers, caught passes. He wasn't just looking for Antonio Williams or Bo Collins, spreading it around. So I like this. I like the steps forward that the passing game has taken over the past 2 weeks. But again, it's against Florida Atlantic. You know, I just don't know if it means anything. We're fixing to find out. Fixing to find out.
Any injuries to report? Anything going on there?
Cole Turner was injured in the game. He has 3 torn. Let me make sure I get this right. He is out for the year. He tore something I had never even heard of before, so I got to make sure I get it right here. 3 torn abductor muscles, maybe. I think that's what it was, abductor muscles. So again, I never heard of it before, and when he did it, I thought he had turned the ankle or something. But he's out for the year. And the other one is Andrew Makuba, who has been out the past 2 weeks. Dabo keeps saying he's day-to-day. I'm kind of hearing a little different. I'm hearing there is a distinct possibility he will not play Saturday. They don't know yet. On the flip side of that, freshman Khalil Barnes filled in for him admirably Saturday. I mean, he played lights out. I wish I had his numbers right in front of me, but he killed. He had an interception. He forced a fumble, tackle for loss. He looked remarkable. He did not look like a freshman at all. So if Makuba can't play, you got to feel good about, Barnes. Other than that, healthy. We're not been able to say that a lot about this Clemson team.
So 7 games, you're going to just be absolutely better than everybody that you play. I would argue LSU, SMU would be included in those 7 because those games weren't like 3 games where just perfection takes place. Offense, special teams, defense, everything was clicking. But then there's 2 games that are going to make you believe in God. And this is one of those that definitely had you praying and you just don't know what's going on. All the bad things that can happen. Guys are allegedly sick. Very ugly conditions up in the Northeast. It's a boring-ass stadium. A lot of excuses, but the reality is it's just hard to go from Orlando, which looked like Doak, Central Florida, to go to Doak, which was practically sold out for Southern Miss, to go into where people are kind of just, we don't want to be here, and a noon kickoff, which noon kickoffs are just different. You're used to late starts, and now you got to go. Your pregame meal is your breakfast. And some people don't eat breakfast. It's just a lot of excuses can be made and a lot of weird stuff was happening. You need games like this. I'm going to tell you, Florida State had a game like this last year against North Carolina State that they lost. So one of the things that I keep after last season, and you saw the change, you saw the things going in Florida State's favor, you started seeing Mike Norvell change a little bit. You got to realize that this team is a bunch of firsts. Last year was his first time winning a home opener against a big opponent on the road, basically. Then it was, learning how to win. Now it's learning how to be able to stay high at every given possibility. and it's just Boston College. Red bandana game. I made a joke, went viral. Boston College got mad at me. I said, the way we're going to whoop that ass, you would think we were Crips. I understand that what that game means to them. And it wasn't because of the game. It's because of what that game means to them. They always play us super tough. It's aggravating. They did this in 2013 to one of the best teams to ever play college football, our national championship team. They struggled to get out of there. And hey, this team struggled to get out of there too. But a win's a win. Winning small or big on the road is a monumental task. That's what Coach Bowden used to say. So I'll take it.
Okay, so you're going to wipe all that away, or are you going to look at anything and say, this needs to be better, that needs to be better?
We gotta do our jobs way better. Now, it's not that you just throw away the tape and you don't teach. It's just some of the stuff you just chalk it up as there, because the reality is their mind wasn't in it. That's really what it comes down to. And fan is short for fanatic, and I'm learning it more and more every day with social media. It wasn't so much that the defense wasn't called properly. It was the fact that we just weren't getting home on a blitz with a super athletic quarterback. You have to do your job. Defensive line has to stay in their lanes. Linebackers, if you're spying, you got to be able, like, if you see the guy going, you got to go. You can't let him get a full head of steam. When we're in coverage, you have to cover your area, especially in zone. You can't be trying to cheat the zone. That leaves gaps for a guy who can find it. And that's what he was doing. Now, here's the real head scratcher. First quarter, 3-point score. Now, I get it. We only had the ball one possession. They mucked it up. Defense couldn't get off the field on 3rd and long. But still, you have to be able to win the quarters. You lost the first quarter and you lost the fourth quarter. You didn't score any points in the fourth quarter, and you held on. Florida State's offense is too potent, too high-powered to be derailed by that defense, no matter how physical and how much different they are than the rest of your schedule. I think Jordan Travis is extremely talented. I think he's getting caught up in two things: trying to trying to prove to the world that he's a quarterback, and also at the same time trying to prove to the world that he's a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. And what I mean by that is there are times when he can be in front of the chains by using his legs, but he refuses to use his legs at times. And then there are times when he uses them because there's a cheat code and he does entirely too much, i.e. the play where we all thought he got hurt toward the end of the second quarter. You've got to be able to just move the pocket and get out of there, and also attack the middle of the field. That's really what they have to be able to do. We saw it with Jaheim Bell. When he got the ball to Jaheim Bell, the ball started moving. But there's also guys like Winston Wright and Destin Hill that have been open. We can't just force it to Keon Coleman, making him try to make very difficult 50-50 catches. Now, prayerfully, Johnny Wilson came through a lot better than he came against Southern Miss. But even then, the 50-50 ball is not supposed to be the whole crux of your offense. It's supposed to be a added luxury to your offense. And I think we relied on that a little bit too much. And the running game has to get better. I mean, there are key takeaways that you can take from this game. But I will say this, not very often do teams blow a 21-point lead in the manner in which Florida State did, unless it's just some bad mojo going.
Dead Media Group. It's right here on YouTube. Get on over there. Check out James' work there, covering Florida State and more. And again, James joins us every Wednesday on our Florida State live show. So get there as well, Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time right here. Jordan Travis, like you said, when we thought he got hurt, so you're not concerned, or based on what you know, of course, you're not a doctor, you're not in on the reports and prognosis, but everything seems to be okay?
Yeah, he's practicing. They expect him to play in this game. A lot of guys who were injured. Also, when you think about Maurice Smith being out, even though Darius Washington has done well, that's the center, that's the quarterback of the offensive line. Not having him around kind of affects a lot of things that are going on as well. Robert Scott as well coming back. Akeem Dent, I hope to be back, but But Jordan Travis, I think it was more of a just an ouch. It was more of a scary situation than it was anything else. I mean, he immediately got back in the game and played. If it was something that would really scare, like a collarbone, he wouldn't have went back in the game.
So James, obviously coming off the LSU game, this team just looked like a wrecking ball, and then they flattened a Southern Miss team, unlike we've seen anything Florida State done in a long time in terms of being, okay, we're an elite, we're going to show it, even though this team's not that good. They're a bowl team. They're a team that we would expect to win 6-7 games. So they're functional, and Florida State didn't beat them by 2 touchdowns. They just completely rolled them by 50 some. So they look to be at that. And then this Boston College crew is just coming off a Holy Cross game that they barely hung on to, and they lose to Northern Illinois. And so that was completely unexpected. So Clemson seems to have a little bit of life in people's eyes, where a couple of weeks ago it was like, okay, this isn't the game we expected it was going to be. How do you evaluate Clemson's chances in this one?
Well, you just have to realize that Clemson recruits very well and has elite athletes. I mean, looking at the schedule, ironically, I would suggest that Florida State's matchups have been better across the board than what Clemson has played. I mean, they played Duke. Nobody would argue that LSU is probably better than Duke. I would say Boston College is probably better than any of the 2 wins that they have. And Southern Miss, as you just said, will be a bowl team. So we haven't got a chance to play the FCS school that you can clean up things. That being said, Cade Klubnik is a very good quarterback. He's just not athletic, which Florida State would probably take as a welcome relief, because the last 3 weeks they've played against guys who teams want to move the pocket, who teams want them to use their athleticism. What Cade is a lot better at doing is setting his feet, throwing the ball downfield. But when we look at the loss and what Duke was able to do, was able to create pressure and put havoc on him and force throws. That's what Florida State's going to have to do against this Clemson team that has shown a propensity to be able to, for you to be able to force turnovers. Florida State hasn't really turned the ball over that much. I mean, I think Jay Travis had 1 interception, and I believe 1 interception, and then we've had 2 fumbles that both came in the Boston College game, which one was off of a pooch kick where guys just doing too much. But I think where Florida State's going to have an issue is that Clemson has a dynamic running game, and they have 2 really, really good running backs. One that we've known that I'm ready for him to go on, and that's Will Shipley. I can't think of the other one's name, but he's the one that fumbled the ball going into the end zone against Duke, but he's still a really good running back.
Phil
but they're
Maffa.
running – you said what?
Phil Maffa.
Right. And I think they even said that he's banged up a little bit. So – but their running game, when Clemson did it to us last year, was all based off of what DJ was able to, ukulele is what I called him, what he was able to do with his legs. And what brought Clemson to a win was him looking like crap. And this is why I don't believe any of this stuff. Clemson looked like crap going all the way up into that game. And then damn DJ played a Heisman Trophy winning performance against us. So I don't fear Cade Klubnik's athleticism, but I do fear that somebody's going to wake up in that Clemson offense and maybe give our defense a little bit of fits. And their linebacker play at Clemson is probably the best linebacker play that we will have seen. But their D-line, I don't think is better than LSU's D-line. So I think it's going to be a good game. It is not a rivalry per se. It's a rivalry in the fact that both of us have been the most dominant teams in the ACC, and that there is some competitiveness in that, and the fact that Florida State can't proclaim that they're back until you get this monkey off your back, because they have beaten us seven times in a row. So it's been over 8 years, because we didn't play them in the COVID year, since we've beaten Clemson. And no way to get back on track with recruiting, with the nation knowing that a victory, whether it be 2, whether it be 22 over Clemson in Death Valley, because that is still a very difficult place to play.
Will Shipley's a guy that scored 15 touchdowns last year. He scored 11 the year before. He's used to finding the end zone. He has yet to score a rushing touchdown this season. They've played 3 games, so this is game 3. It's FAU. It's a 34-0 game, and a lot was made of an incident on the sideline in which Will Shipley was given the ball, did not score. They eventually took him out. They scored on a touchdown or I even want to correct myself there. I don't know that they took him out, or if this was the exchange on the sideline after they scored the touchdown on the sneak by Cade Klubnik. So I want to get that correct. And then there's an exchange between CJ Spiller and Will Shipley on the sideline, because Will Shipley was obviously wanting the football again. And then there was a little confrontation on the sideline. And then there was a ton made by Clemson fans and college football fans about Will Shipley arguing with his coach, pouting, whatever it appeared to be on the sideline. I saw the replay. Didn't watch the game, but saw that series of plays and then the exchange on the sideline. My conclusion is that the guy's a great player. He's a baller. He's a gamer. Loves this university, loves this team, loves his teammates. And he is like the epitome of what you want on your football team. And if you've got a track record like Will Shipley, maybe his response wasn't the best, but my goodness, let's have a little grace.
Yeah, let me preface this by saying, I'm not defending or excusing anything Will Shipley did. I don't think you should probably refrain from getting in a coach's face, especially on the sideline. It's not the best look. Now, having said that, anybody that follows Clemson closely knows we're talking about a fiery dude. I mean, he is extremely emotional on the field. And I think that is something this Clemson team needs at times, because they lacked fire, in my opinion, on offense and defense. Not that he plays defense, but they've lacked fire, and he's been that leader since he got to campus. I mean, they praised his leadership abilities as a freshman. He's been that guy in the locker room, going on. This is his third year now. And I don't know what they were. I don't know what he was hot about, but he was hot about something. And I am pretty sure that he stayed on the field. He was still out there when Columbus scored. 99.9% sure anyways. But, I mean, whatever it was, take it to the sideline, maybe wait till you're not as emotional. But I just think this is much ado about nothing. I just don't think it's that big a deal. Football players are emotional. You want them to play with their emotions on their sleeves sometimes. What was he pouting on the sideline? I don't know. He had a towel on his head for a minute. Quickly after that, he had his helmet back in his hand. He was back on the field. He even played he was even back on the field for a play or two, the first offensive series of the third quarter. So he didn't get benched or anything. After the game, Dabo Swinney got asked about it. He didn't even know it had happened. So, I mean, it must not have been that big a deal on the sideline for nobody to have even told Dabo Swinney. And he didn't seem too worried about it. He said, I'm sure, I know CJ will handle that. Referring to CJ Spiller, he's the running backs coach. So again, it's always a bad look from an optics perspective, but I just think it's much ado about nothing. I told you before we jumped on here, I saw so many Clemson fans calling Will Shipley overrated Saturday night, Sunday morning. Never saw anybody call him that before this. But I have seen tons call him that since, and I'm not sure how you like we talked about. I'm not sure how you go from that to overrated. I think he's a pretty dang running back. Is he explosive, and does he got that elite level speed? No, I mean he gets run down from behind sometimes, but he is a solid running back that is going to, on average, get you 5, 6, 7 yards per carry, and that's pretty dang productive in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't know the connection between his playing ability and the evaluation of his playing ability and the way he acted on the sideline, what those two have to do with one another. And then also understand that while sports is a great thing for young people to be involved in because it teaches discipline, teamwork, all those things, poise, and so forth, we do ask these football players to do something that's kind of unreasonable. We expect them between the whistles to act violently and then emotionally and just throw this energy at somebody else and then to shut it off, be completely poised, and then the next snap to do the same thing and do this over and over and over. And that's what we ask them to do. And that's what they should do. They shouldn't be, acting like fools between the plays, but we are asking quite a bit that even a guy of my age would find it difficult to compartmentalize my emotions that well for 3.5 hours every week.
Yeah, you nailed it. We want them to be emotional, between the whistles. And then when the whistle blows, cut it off just like that, and it doesn't always work like that. Like you said, we're all human, and sometimes it's hard to shut those things off. He had gotten, Clemson had the ball on the one. He had been given the ball twice, and failed to get in. Nobody knows what was said, just that they seemed to be yelling at each other. Nobody knows exactly what was said. I don't anyways. I've not heard anybody knows what was said. So, I mean, how disrespectful was what he said? I had no idea. I mean, as far as I know, all he did was raise his voice. But you could tell he was a little frustrated about something, whether it was not getting in from the one, whether it was with his blocking up front or not getting the ball the third time in a row. Because he's a guy that wants the ball, man. He wants the ball. Is who he is, and I think that's who you want as the leader on your offense. You want a leader who wants the ball.
In another discussion we've had with you and the other guys many times has been proof of concept. So Mike Norvell was selling guys on dreams and visions and all that sort of thing. And shoot, give it up for him. He did it. LSU last year was a certain proof of concept moment. And on as that team won 6 consecutive games. And then boom, LSU, this another proof of concept. So now we get to a point where proof of concept hasn't been a thing against this team, but at least these guys have been competitive against Clemson. They don't walk on the field thinking, we can't hang with these guys. We've played right with them. We just haven't gotten the job done the last 2 years, but they've been good games. And the rest of us guess about that psychology. You lived it, you played it, and then you were also surrounded by other guys that played it, lived it, and everybody's different. Some guys, I'm sure, that can wipe the slate clean the next year and be like, just line up, let's go. We don't care if you beat us 59-zip last year, but other guys, it's in their head. Where do you think Florida State's at with the whole Clemson wins this game every year deal?
I think that's the beauty of the transfer portal, and there's not enough guys who have felt 4 losses or 3 losses to Clemson. You've got enough guys on there who don't know what it's like to lose to Clemson because they've never lost or don't know what it's like to have that many years of losing to Clemson. And I also think, I hate this quote because there's a lot of better quotes for Bobby, but this best sums it up. At first, you lose big, then you lose small, then you win small, then you win big. I think the gap has been slowly narrowing to where we had the professor in the stands getting beat reading a book playing Clemson, to where last year we felt we had every chance to win that game. In fact, the last 2 years we had every chance to win that game. So Florida State just has to come out there and believe in what Coach Norvell and the staff has had. One of the things that you can tell by a great team is when they believe in what's called. Even if the plays suck, every offensive play is designed to score. Every defensive play is designed to stop the offense from scoring. So even if you're not in the most premium matchup, if you do your job, you will win. But I can promise you there is no offensive play that will work if all 11 players on the field don't believe that the play will work. Somebody has to outwill it. And I think when you get into those, oh my God, it's Clemson, this is happening again moments, is when you take a step out of your own, you take a step out of what the safety and the sanctity of doing it as a team, and you try to do it on your own. And I think the only way, and that's what's been different about Clemson. Clemson has literally come out every year and done what Clemson does, and they wait for you to implode. And I think right now you've got enough senior leadership and enough key players that the guys believe in that they won't implode. Again, that was the best takeaway from Boston College is in previous years, the guys fold and implode on themselves. This time they stood the course and they were able to win the game.
No, I think Florida State's good, but I was saying let's pump the brakes on them being a top 5, top 3 team. I want to see more. They struggle with Boston College. Were they maybe looking ahead to next week a little bit? Possibly. It was a noon game on the road. Sometimes we see the road teams get off to slow start. Sometimes under those circumstances, and Florida State got off to a slow start and rebounded, went up 31-10. And next thing you know, they've made a couple of mistakes and allowed Boston College to get back in that thing. One of them was a scoop and score, and Boston College is right there within reach of winning that game. Again, I don't know if that was maybe a little bit of Florida State looking ahead, or if maybe that's just maybe they're not the top 5 team they're being made out to be by everybody. But if we go strictly by what we watched, there's some weaknesses there. Boston College was able to expose some things. Boston College's quarterback in particular. So we'll see if Clemson can put a game plan together that can expose some weak spots on that defense. I think the secondary has been questionable to play in the secondary for Florida State going back to the LSU game. So I think there will be some opportunities in the passing game. The question is, does Clemson have the receivers to make that happen? You know, we've not seen it yet outside of Charleston Southern and Florida Atlantic, and they are a far cry from what Florida State's going to be. I also want to see this Clemson running game against that defensive line of Florida State. I forget how many rushing yards Boston College had in that game the other day. More than I thought they would have had going in. Because that defensive line for Florida State, it was stout against LSU. You know, it was really good. Maybe not quite so good against Boston College. Part of me wants to think they, you know, just kind of got caught looking ahead a little bit. But we'll find out for sure Saturday. But this is a huge game for Clemson and Dabo Swinney's program, man. Huge. Probably one of the biggest we've seen in quite some time, in my opinion.
We've got the point spread, folks, on the banner right there. It's in Death Valley, and Clemson's a 1.5 point underdog. Get this one, Jason. I just checked this. Ohio State can't say this. Georgia can't say this. And I'm guessing Alabama can't say this, although maybe. Clemson has not been an underdog. So for the last 5 years of regular season games, they've not ever been an underdog. 0. Even when they played Georgia in 2021, they were a 3-point favorite. They've never been an underdog. And I bet they haven't been an underdog in a regular season game since probably Florida State 2014.
2016.
2016, they were an underdog.
Louisville.
On the road.
Lamar Jackson and Louisville.
Oh, really?
Clemson was a 1-point underdog. That's what I have here. Somebody sent me this morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times under Dabo Swinney, they have been underdogs at home. 2016 to Louisville, 2013 Florida State, 2013 Georgia, 2010 South Carolina, 2010 Miami, 2008 Georgia Tech. And the biggest was Florida State, 2013. Clemson was a 4.5 point underdog. Those are home games now.
Yeah. Okay. These are all games in the last 5 years I've got right in front of me. Never been an underdog in the regular season. Last time they were an underdog was the national championship game against LSU. And again, I got to think 2014. So they must have went to Tallahassee in 2014. They were probably an underdog in that game. I'm guessing that's the last time they were an underdog. Well, you're telling me the 2016 Louisville game, which I don't know what Vegas was doing there, but it was a really close game.
And it was only this, I don't know what service this is from. Somebody sent it to me this morning because we were talking about when the last time Clemson was an underdog at home. So somebody sent me every time Clemson's been an underdog at home under Dabo, and it was only a 1-point spread. So what one service had, you know, it might have been a little bit different somewhere else. It might have been a pick 'em somewhere else. So go either way on that one. Kind of like 2015 Notre Dame, the Hurricane game.
Yeah.
Opened up, Notre Dame was a 2.5 point favorite, if I'm not mistaken. By the time the game rolled around, it was a pick 'em.
But yeah, at least for the last 5 years, at least the last 6 years, if you go to 20. So we're talking like 75 games. They have not been an underdog except for that championship game against LSU. Wow.
Dabo likes to play up the underdog card, right? You know, we're a little old Clemson, right? And he has not been able to really do that the way he used to be able to do it. Because, you know, during the first half of his tenure, you know, you could buy into some of that, but it has kind of felt like, you know, over the past few years since they went on this run that some of it kind of felt manufactured and he was trying to push some buttons and not sure how that message was being received. But now they are going to be the underdog this week. He can really truthfully and meaningfully push that narrative and try, you know, and use that as one of the ways to motivate this team. Not only are they underdogs, they're underdogs at home. And that's just something we've rarely seen under Dabo Swinney. So It's going to be interesting to see how this team comes out. Again, a noon kickoff. You never know with these with noon kickoffs at Clemson. You can have a dead crowd. You can have a raucous crowd. It just depends. I remember Syracuse, Trevor Lawrence's first start, noon kickoff at Clemson. It was one of the loudest times I ever heard it. And that rarely happens for a noon game. I expect it'll be raucous this weekend, especially after Florida State's close call this past weekend. Some of these Clemson fans are thinking, maybe they're a little bit more vulnerable than they've been led to believe. And not to mention Jordan Travis got hurt in that game too. Had to come out and went back in. Who knows how fully healthy that shoulder will be.
The one thing that stands out watching Florida State play LSU was that they really exposed the LSU secondary. If there's a reasonable pass rush for Clemson, do you think their secondary can hold up against Florida State's wide receivers?
That is going to be one of my 5 storylines to follow when I write this thing up later in the week. And it might be the number 1 on the list because Florida State has some dudes at wide receiver, some dynamic playmakers, Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. And we're talking about Johnny Wilson, 6'7". I mean, I don't care who you are. That's going to be tough to cover. I feel like Clemson's got some guys that can cover. Nate Wiggins has been really good since his bad showing against Wake Forest last year. I think he could potentially be a first-round pick in the next draft. We'll see. I think he's got that kind of potential. But on the other side over there, you got Sheridan Jones and Jaden Lucas is the third corner. Sheridan Jones worries me a little bit. He's a 6-year guy. He's experienced. He's been around a long time, but he's wily. He's a veteran. Maybe not quite as talented as Nate Wiggins or, say, the younger Jaden Lucas, who is just in his second year now, didn't play much last year at all. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. How Clemson can cover on the back end against those guys. And I think it's imperative that you pressure. You can't let Jordan Travis get comfortable back there. You got to put pressure on him. And Clemson's had a little bit of issues when they do get pressure this year. They've not been able to finish. Guys are getting out of the pocket. Riley Leonard killed him. That long touchdown run that Clemson had him in the grasp, and he gets away and goes and scores. When they get to him, they got to be able to finish. They can't let him get comfortable. And when he does have a clean pocket, Clemson's secondary is going to have to cover. It's going to be a great test. The pass defense is the one area on defense Dabo Swinney said in the offseason needed to improve significantly. We're fixing to find out if it did.
You already pointed out in Jordan Travis, who's got a dimension that Cade Klubnik does not have. Number 2, he's played, and we've just seen him get better and better and better and better. Klubnik hasn't broken through yet. He's not played well against a good team. He's had a few opportunities and not played well yet. He's extremely talented. How much of an advantage is that if Florida State's down 4 and they've got the ball with 2 minutes left, there's got to be a lot of confidence that he's going to get it done versus if Klubnik's got the ball down 4 with 2 minutes left, that we don't know if he can drive it down the field and get this thing done.
I mean, that has a lot with Jordan Travis at the helm. You always feel like you have an opportunity. When Jameis was here, I had a little saying, all you needed was Jesus, J5, and time, and you could win any game. I believe with Jordan Travis, if you are in a situation where you want to go down, what does a defense do? Do you go back and you do what traditional teams do when you have the lead and you're trying to play with the lead? Do you play a very soft zone or a version of the prevent? Well, if you do that and you take away the top, well, what does Jordan Travis do with his legs? He's got the ability to pick up large chunks of land with his throwing ability or his running ability. Now, I think with Cade, you said hasn't had that opportunity yet, but when he's played against teams that have time to study him, he hasn't really been able to show that he can shine. Like again, Duke, the bowl game, he performed well against North Carolina in the ACC championship, but even then, North Carolina's defense gave up a bunch of points to FAMU in the beginning of the previous season. So, but I don't think that they're going to try to rely on Cade if it's a close game. They're going to use what their strength is their running game. And they're going to try to play very sound defense and a very good with a very good running game. And I think that's the formula they're going to use to beat Florida State, because we haven't really seen anything from their receivers, which is odd because Clemson used to be known for their wide receiver.
James Coleman, Den Media Group. And again, we get together every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, right here at the Voice of College Football. James, with whether it be Den Media Group or anything else that you've got going, anything people need to know about what you've got going that we can point them in the right direction?
Right now, we're 117 followers or subscribers away from 3,000 on the YouTube channel. Once we get to the thousands mark, so we get to 3,000, we will give away $300 to a listener live on my next Big Games BS show. Also, the Virginia Tech game is sold out. There's a way to get tickets to the Virginia Tech game. We give away a pair of tickets the Wednesday before every home game at Florida State, but we will give away 2 pairs of tickets once we get to 3,000 for the Virginia Tech game. So that's 4 tickets that we'll be giving away. And then last but not least, there's a young man named Jack Coleman. It's my pinned tweet that we will be taking. He's from Dreams Come True in Jacksonville. We partnered with them with the Gator Bowl. His dream was to come to a Florida State home game. He has a brain tumor right behind his eyes. The surgery and the treatment basically has left him blind, and he will eventually go full blind. He wanted to come to a Florida State game, so we're going to Duke. We're going to cover that, all expenses paid. If it's something that moves you and you're interested in donating to it, go to mftkfoundation.com. You can donate there at that link, or all the links are also on the pin tweet. But we're going to but the biggest thing we can do is raise awareness, retweeting that, letting the world know what we're going to try to do for Jack. So hopefully that will be a good game, a good victory, and a good memory for Jack as he comes. So you can follow you can go to mftkfoundation.com for all of the things that we do in the community with the MFTK Foundation.
Folks, you see James' Twitter handle right there on the banner right there, Big Game James _36. You can follow everything there. Again, he said it's the pinned tweet, so it's right at the top. The other thing with the Den Media Group, we're going to put the link. It's going to be in the top of the description section, the link to his Den Media Group channel right here on YouTube, and so you can subscribe right there. James, appreciate you breaking things down for us.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Anytime. See you later.